Hello, all you freedom-loving people. Today, Pam Bondi, President Trump, Ken Paxton, and RFK Jr. are in the headlines while the House passes legislation that will regulate stablecoins to be pegged one-to-one with the US dollar. Okay, let's get into it. Today, the White House announced President Trump underwent a medical evaluation after swelling in his lower legs and bruising on his hands. And according to the doctor, President Trump remains in good health. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt read a short report of his evaluation during the daily press briefing.
In recent weeks, President Trump noted mild swelling in his lower legs. In keeping with routine medical care and out of an abundance of caution, this concern was thoroughly evaluated by the White House Medical Unit. The President underwent a comprehensive examination, including diagnostic vascular studies. Bilateral lower extremity venous Doppler ultrasounds were performed and revealed chronic venous insufficiency, a benign and common condition, particularly in individuals over the age of 70. Laboratory testing included a complete blood count, comprehensive metabolic panel, coagulation profile, D-dimer, B-type natriuretic peptide, and cardiac biomarkers.
As a result, the swelling in his legs was found to be chronic venous insufficiency, which the doctor reported was a benign and common condition, particularly in individuals over the age of 70. Meanwhile, the minor bruising that was found on President Trump's hands was found to be consistent with irritation of soft tissue resulting from frequent handshaking. In addition, it was a benign side effect from the use of aspirin. The doctor said that President Trump takes aspirin as part of a standard cardiovascular prevention regimen. All results came back within normal limits, showing normal cardiac structure and function. The doctor found no signs of heart failure, no deep vein thrombosis, no arterial disease, no renal impairment, and no systemic illness. And in other news today, Attorney General Pam Bondi toured Alcatraz Island in San Francisco Bay as part of President Trump's directive to transform the popular tourist attraction into a federal penitentiary. Back in May, President Trump ordered to reopen a substantially enlarged and rebuilt Alcatraz to house America's most ruthless and violent offenders. Alcatraz currently is part of the National Park Service. Today, Bondi toured Alcatraz, along with Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, who arrived on a Coast Guard vessel. They were joined by a contingent of administration officials and Secret Service staffers. Later during the day, Bondi posted an image of her tour on X saying that under President Trump, we are making America safe again. The tour comes after an Arkansas prisoner named Grant Hardin, who is also known as the Devil in the Ozarks, recently escaped from a medium security prison. Hardin escaped by disguising himself in a makeshift law enforcement uniform. In fact, during the escape, an employee allowed Hardin onto an outside kitchen dock without supervision, and another employee who was working in a tower opened the gate for Hardin without checking his identity. Later, these two prison employees were fired for policy violations. Hardin, who was a former police chief and who was serving sentences for murder and rape, used a kitchen apron, marker-dyed fabric, and a Bible cover to craft his disguise. He also brought peanut butter sandwiches to survive during his escape. Hardin even made a ladder out of wood pallets in case the gate plan failed. Lawmakers say that the incident revealed deeper problems in Arkansas's prison system, including poor inmate classification and lack of oversight. Hardin's escape, which went unnoticed for hours, has prompted a state police investigation and an internal review that may result in more disciplinary actions. Officials admitted multiple failures and communication breakdowns that allowed Hardin to flee undetected. He was captured 12 days later, just 1.5 miles from the prison. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton recently announced an investigation into over 100 potential non-citizens who allegedly cast over 200 ballots in the 2020 and 2022 elections. Most of the suspected illegal ballots that were cast by potential non-citizens were cast in Harris County. But Paxton's office is also looking into possible cases in Guadalupe, Cameron, and Eastland counties based on information from the Texas Secretary of State. Previously, President Trump signed an executive order that directed the Department of Homeland Security to provide the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services SAVE database to the states, and this is what made the discovery possible. In a press release on Tuesday, Paxton said, "Illegal aliens and foreign nationals must not be allowed to influence Texas elections by casting illegal ballots with impunity. I will not allow it to continue." Paxton also said, thanks to President Trump's decisive action to help states safeguard the ballot box, this investigation will help Texas hold non-citizens accountable for unlawfully voting in American elections. If you're a non-citizen who illegally cast a ballot, you will face the full force of the law. In June, Paxton also opened an investigation into an additional 33 potential non-citizens who allegedly voted illegally in the 2024 general election. On Wednesday, the Israeli military launched a massive airstrike on the Syrian capital, Damascus. The Syrian presidential palace and the headquarters of the general staff were heavily bombarded. The Israeli Defense Forces later confirmed that the airstrike targeted not only the Ministry of Defense building, but also facilities near the Syrian presidential palace. Syria's health ministry told CNN that the airstrike killed at least one person and wounded 18 others. So why did Israel make a sudden move this time? It actually has to do with the Druze, which is an important minority group in Syria. The Druze have close ties to Israel. They are considered a loyal minority in Israel. Many Druze even serve directly in the Israeli army. Therefore, the safety and security of the Druze in Syria has particularly touched the nerve of the Israeli government. Over the weekend, fierce clashes broke out in the city of Suwaida in southern Syria. The conflict erupted when a Druze man was attacked and robbed when he was stopped at a Bedouin checkpoint in Suwaida province. The Druze and the Bedouin clans there exchanged fire, and the situation quickly deteriorated as Syrian government forces intervened. Some videos and reports seem to indicate that government forces not only began attacking Druze communities, but burning and looting houses, but they also targeted Druze by publicly humiliating them and forcing them to shave their beards. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar has publicly stated that the military operation is to prevent further attacks on the Druze while maintaining security on Israel's southern border. Defense Secretary Israel Katz further warned that Israel will continue to intensify its military campaign if Syrian government forces do not withdraw from the Suwaida region. So, the United States is highly concerned about the situation in the region. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told reporters during an Oval Office meeting with brainy Crown Prince Salman bin Hamad that there may have been a misunderstanding between the two sides.
Yeah, it's complicated, obviously. These are historic, long-time rivalries between different groups in the southwest of Syria, Bedouins, the Druze community, and it led to an unfortunate situation and a misunderstanding, it looks like, between the Israeli side and the Syrian side. So we've been engaged with them all morning long and all night long with both sides, and we think we're on our way towards a real de-escalation and then hopefully get back on track in helping Syria build a country and arriving at a situation there in the Middle East is far more stable. So in the next few hours, we hope to see some real progress to end what you've been seeing over the last couple hours.
The Trump administration has engaged with all parties to the conflict to end the clashes in Syria. Rubio said on X, "We have agreed on specific steps that will bring this troubling and horrifying situation to an end tonight. This will require all parties to deliver on the commitments they have made, and this is what we fully expect them to do." The Syrian government said on Wednesday night local time its army forces started withdrawing from Suwaida, according to the country's state-run Sana news agency. Sana said the withdrawal of Syrian Arab Army forces from Suwaida has begun in implementation of the agreement reached between the Syrian state and the Druze religious leadership in the city following the army's completion of its mission to pursue outlawed groups. Netanyahu said that the ceasefire was obtained by force, not by demands, not by pleas, by force. After 2 days of stalemate, the House of Representatives finally narrowly passed a procedural vote on Wednesday night by a vote of 217 to 212, allowing 3 digital currency regulation bills to enter formal debate. Due to opposition from hardline Republicans, the agenda was deadlocked for 2 days. It wasn't until Wednesday night that some of the Republicans who previously opposed the agenda changed their tune, allowing the bill to finally move forward. The vote lasted more than 8 hours, setting a record for the longest open vote in the modern history of the House. The 3 bills are Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for U.S. Stable Coins, the Genius Act, and the Digital Asset Market Clarity Act, known as the Clarity Act, and the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act. When voting began on Tuesday, 12 hardline Republicans voted against the rule. So, in an effort to resolve the party's stalemate, President Trump met with 12 conservative Republican lawmakers in the White House Oval Office on Tuesday night to negotiate. As a trade-off, President Trump agreed to include provisions banning central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs, in the Clarity Act. The compromise is intended to address the hardline, long-standing concerns about CBDCs. They believe that these digital currency regulatory bills could lay the framework for the Federal Reserve to issue digital currencies, giving the Federal Reserve centralized control as opposed to the decentralized nature of stable coins. But President Trump's concessions seem to have succeeded in allaying some of the concerns, shifting the majority of members who were against the rule to support it. President Trump was happy to announce the news early on Truth Social, saying that attendees all agreed to vote in favor of the rules of procedure. However, the voting on Wednesday night did not go smoothly. Republican Representatives Chip Roy, Keith Self, and Marjorie Taylor Greene still voted against the rule. During hours of negotiations, House Speaker Mike Johnson huddled with the holdouts in his office. Finally, when Republican leadership agreed to include the anti-CBDC provision, the dissenting members switched to a yes vote, allowing the rule of order to pass. In the end, only a single Republican member, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, voted against advancing the rule. Johnson said that the deal breaks the logjam and allows them to get their work done. He said sometimes it takes longer than at other times, but it's all part of the process. You all know that's how this works. We built consensus and we got it done tonight, so I'm very pleased. He also spoke with President Trump late on Wednesday night. Johnson said, "I'm pleased that we'll be able to get this done. The president is as well. I just spoke with him, and obviously this is a big priority for him, as it was for us." And with the procedural thresholds passed by the House of Representatives, the House voted again this afternoon to bring America's payment system into the 21st century. And House lawmakers passed the Genius Act today at a vote of 308 to 122 to regulate stable coins. 99% of stable coins are already pegged to the US dollar at a 1-to-1 ratio. And the House also passed a bill at 219 to 210 to prohibit the Federal Reserve from issuing a central bank digital currency to prevent the government from having control of Americans' bank accounts. Yesterday, President Trump signed the Halt All Lethal Trafficking of Fentanyl Act during a ceremony in the East Room of the White House. The bill is also known as the Halt Fentanyl Act. Previously, critics argued that demand drives supply and that the bill could lead to higher incarceration rates in marginalized communities. But in the end, the bill received partisan support from nearly every Republican and several Democrats. It passed the Senate by an 84-16 vote in March, and the House voted 321 to 104 in June. Now, the bill reclassifies substances that are related to the deadly opioid fentanyl as Schedule I narcotics. Schedule I narcotics is the strictest category under the Controlled Substances Act. Such drugs are considered without medical value, and they are subject to the nation's most punitive criminal penalties. The bill also mandates 10-year minimum prison sentences for those who are convicted of distributing 100 grams or more of any fentanyl-related or derived drug 100 grams is enough to kill approximately 50,000 people. Depending on the user's tolerance, a deadly dose can be as small as 2/100ths of a gram or even less. So far, more than 450,000 Americans have died of synthetic opioid overdoses over the past decade, with millions more addicted. But the bill will now help close loopholes that allow cartels and other criminal syndicates to create closely related substances, including carfentanil. Carfentanil is 100 times more potent than fentanyl.
We take a historic step toward justice for every family touched by the fentanyl scourge as we sign the Halt Fentanyl Act into law. Good job. Good job. We'll be getting the drug dealers, pushers, and peddlers off our street, and we will not rest until we have ended the drug overdose epidemic. And it's been getting a little bit better, but it's horrible. It's horrible. We're going to end it once and for all.
President Trump also said that China would sentence people to death for fentanyl manufacturing and distribution. After taking office again in 2025, President Trump targeted China with punitive tariffs for failing to commit to a previous deal that would help the fentanyl crisis in the United States. Manufacturers in China distribute the raw chemicals that are needed to create the illicit drug to various criminal organizations around the world. So, following a meeting in June with the U.S. Ambassador to China, David Perdue, the Chinese Communist Party added 2 fentanyl precursors to its list of banned substances. This enforcement will begin on July 20th. State governments across the country, including California, where most overdose deaths have occurred, are also passing similar laws. They are also trying to increase penalties and to raise awareness about fentanyl exposure risks. While California tightens its fentanyl-related drug laws, it now faces another shakeup, this time in infrastructure. Yesterday, President Trump announced the cancellation of funding for California's high-speed rail project. Among the problems that he cited were delays and affordability. President Trump wrote on Truth Social, "To the law-abiding, tax-paying, hard-working citizens of the United States, I am thrilled to announce that I have officially freed you from funding California's disastrously overpriced high-speed train to nowhere." The project has already cost taxpayers $15 billion without any returns. President Trump wrote, "The railroad we were promised still does not exist and never will. This project was severely overpriced, overregulated, and never delivered." So President Trump commended Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy for pulling the plug on the project. Yesterday, Duffy said in an official project cancellation statement that the Federal Railroad Administration has terminated approximately $4 billion in unspent federal funding for the rail project. Duffy said that after spending around $15 billion over a period of 16 years, the California High-Speed Rail Authority failed to lay even a single high-speed track. According to the department, the projected cost of the project came to around $135 billion, but the San Francisco to Los Angeles project was initially supposed to be completed for $33 billion by 2020. Major changes are coming to the U.S. healthcare system. Aetna, the health insurer owned by CVS Health, will exit the Affordable Care Act, the ACA, in 2026. The move will affect about 1 million policyholders in 17 U.S. states. The ACA is a federal law that was enacted 15 years ago that allows people without employer-provided insurance to purchase health insurance on their own. The act also provides tax subsidies to further assist certain individuals in lowering their premiums. However, Congress has not yet renewed the ACA tax subsidy bill. The recently passed Big Beautiful Bill Act does not include an extension of the subsidies, making the prospect of ACA tax subsidy renewal even more troubling. CVS said that the decision to withdraw Aetna from the ACA was led by the company's new management team in response to rising healthcare costs in Aetna's healthcare plans. Beginning in 2026, Aetna will no longer offer individual or family health plans in Virginia and 16 other states through the ACA Healthcare. According to the Virginia Department of Medical Assistance Services, more than 261,000 people use Aetna in Virginia. The other 16 states affected include Arizona, California, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Maryland, Missouri, Nevada, New Jersey, North Carolina, Ohio, Texas, and Utah. HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has fired two of his top aides, Hannah Anderson, the Deputy Chief of Staff of Policy, and Heather Flick Melanson, his Chief of Staff. An HHS spokesperson said, Secretary Kennedy has made a leadership change within the immediate office of the Secretary, effective immediately. Melanson is a lawyer who previously served in multiple top roles at HHS during the first Trump administration. She was previously acting general counsel for HHS, then she became acting Secretary of Administration, and finally senior counsel to then HHS Secretary Alex Azar. Kennedy's White House liaison, Matt Buckham, will serve as acting chief of staff. The spokesperson also said Secretary Kennedy thanks the outgoing leadership for their service and looks forward to working closely with Mr. Buckham as the department continues advancing its mission to make America healthy again. A magnitude 7.3 earthquake struck near the Alaskan Peninsula on Wednesday afternoon, triggering a tsunami warning for the coastal region. The strong earthquake occurred 54 miles south of Sandpoint at the depth of nearly 12.5 miles. Following the earthquake, the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration issued a tsunami warning for most of the Alaska Peninsula. The warning was extended to the southernmost tip of the Alaskan continent as far as Anchorage. The agency initially said that a tsunami of up to about a foot was possible and alerted those inside the warning zone that some local impacts could be expected. However, the warning was canceled 1 hour later. Alaska's southern coast is earthquake-prone, and Wednesday's was the fifth in roughly the same area since 2020, exceeding magnitude 7, state seismologist Michael West said. Recently, we have been very concerned about the news of earthquakes because of a number of psychics have predicted that a mega earthquake will occur in early July, especially in Japan. Although no major earthquakes have occurred so far, during the 12-day period from June 21st to July 2nd, an earthquake occurred in the waters off Tokara Islands in the Kagoshima Prefecture in Japan. And this was 3 times the number of similar incidents recorded in the past, so the concerns remain. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your support of Front Page. Please remember to leave a comment below the video. This is really helping us to be seen all around the world. The more people who watch Front Page, the more freedom-loving people the world will have. And please hit the like button and hit the notification bell after subscribing. And please share this video with your friends and family because everybody deserves to know the truth.